You are listening to Her Game.
I am Jo Mountford from Perform, and today I'll be talking with Luiza from Brazil. I'm so excited to introduce Luiza as she brings a wealth of experience and insight to our conversation. She stands at the exciting crossroads of women's sport, creative leadership and global events. And Luiza played a pivotal role in crafting the creative vision for the Brazil 2027 bid, which you will hear about. With a background that includes delivering creative projects for the Olympic Games, World Cups, and even Formula One, Luiza truly understands how major sporting events can shape our culture on a grand scale. As a woman leading a sports-focused creative studio, she brings her own lived experiences to the table, discussing important topics like visibility, narrative, ownership, and inclusion. And what is so inspiring about Luiza is that her authority comes not just from theory, but from her genuine passion for making an impact in the world of sports and ensuring that everyone feels represented. I cannot wait to share her insights. Before we dive into our conversation with Luiza, I want to take a moment to highlight the themes central to this podcast series. We all recognize the evolving landscape of women in sports and the opportunities that are emerging. However, several critical topics require our attention, which include body health, goal setting, mental health challenges, the unique experiences of women in sport, the gender pay gap, and issues of sexual abuse and harassment. We'll explore these topics as well as the vital role of women in sports, the contribution of trailblazers, and strategies for planning life after sport. This podcast aims to give women a platform to share their journeys and inspire others. I recently reached out on LinkedIn to invite a diverse group of women to join me in sharing their stories, and I was pleasantly overwhelmed by the positive responses I received. I'm excited to bring you these insightful conversations in the near future. If you're interested in developing your mindset and enhancing your mental strength, be sure to visit the Perform website. There you'll find resources such as links to monthly groups for athletes, parents, and officials, as well as an online coaching option, assessments for the Clifton Strengths, and the Zoom links to book your coaching sessions with me. Welcome, and thank you for sharing your time with me. I'm so excited to talk to you. Just starting off, can you share your background and what inspired you to focus on women's sport and branding and whatever else you do?
No, thank you. I'm very happy to be here too. Thank you for the opportunity. So I've been on sports all my career. I'm originally from Brazil. I've been in the UK for over 10 years now, but I've started when we were working on the bid for the Olympic Games, the 2016 Olympic Games. And then from there, I worked for FIFA Brazil, so delivering the 2014 World Cup, and then Olympic Games, and then back to London to work on many different agency sides, IMG, CSMs, Formula One. So I've been on sports all my career. And one of the reasons, I've left the corporate world and opened the studio was to focus more on women's sports and grassroots. And the reason being mainly is as we see online much more like it's harder for them to keep in sports, and the lens and all the particularities that I've been seeing, for example, the budget that goes through men's and then it's translated directly to women's, and the branding and the communication is just not there yet. We're getting there for sure, but in terms of like the direct the agency that does it all, so there's no specific lens or anything like that. So I've been trying to get those visual narratives and trying to find ways to increase the willingness to keep them in sports, and the willingness to kind of, this is really truly amazing. We are inspiring more people and more women to stay. So I've been involved in different projects and very lucky too. And even talking more about periods in a more openness way. I think lots of girls reach a point that when they get their periods, they don't talk to their coaches or they're not open enough to talk about that. And I think that's just like one of the barriers that we can definitely use design and creative language and strategic ways to break those barriers. And it's more than normal to talk about periods. So there's many things that we can do, or I wanted to do as a creative and brand professional. Not speaking.
Did you know, can I just interrupt you there? I once did a course through the UK with a lady called Charlotta Martinez, and she runs a teen yoga instructors course focusing on teens. And she just introduces a beautiful way for young girls to celebrate becoming a woman and to light a candle or like something so that it's not a shame and that it is part of every woman's development, it's a transition, and it's something to talk about and to celebrate. So I think it's fantastic that if people are starting to talk about it openly with the coaches and it's a real thing. And in South Africa, we've got the period poverty where people don't have sanitary products necessarily, which keeps them away from sport. So the more people can share the dilemma that girls are facing, maybe people will reach out. And the other one is breast health. That again, there could be shame that maybe the one's breasts are hurt playing football, rugby, other contact sports, and it's a real thing. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. It is what it is. So let's talk about it and get help and advice. Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's those topics that it used to be taboos, and there still are at certain extent, but we need to kind of start breaking them more and more. And when that's when more women working on sports and more openness to talk to either the coaches and feeling comfortable in the kit that you're wearing and the boots that you're wearing and the colors that you're wearing. It doesn't need to be pink, glittery, or anything like that. Is more kind of the true meaning of feeling that you belong. It's coming, and it's so important that they feel that they have the same space and the same opportunities, working for the same opportunities as the men's or any other person.
Yeah. And what's incredible about what you're doing is, for example, I know there's a cricket lady, a lady in cricket, who's making cricket kit for women, i.e., it's never going to be white. So their cricket kit is going to be a safe color for them to wear any time of the month. So it's feeding into women's needs, and exactly as you say, so you can wear your kit with pride, comfort, and yeah, and value who you are.
Exactly. Yeah. And start to shift those perspectives. Like I've been working on the 2027 Women's World Cup. I was very lucky to work on the bid and understand all the projects and the meaningfulness that they want to try to bring to break the barriers of women in Brazil, women's sports in Brazil, because it's kind of a religion for us, football. And if you just see the men's and like trying to understand and transform that into the whole unity, women's and men's working and playing football and playing sports in Brazil. So the 2027, hopefully it's coming to bring more awareness and more openness to talk and to have women's and inspire women's and girls to stay in sport or even start playing sports or football. So it's just been a huge pleasure to work on and see, hopefully seeing this project coming to life.
You know, when I reached out on LinkedIn about people joining my podcast, this lady reached out to me, and she's from a low-cost housing area here, and she started a football club in her area, which is so poor, for little girls to keep them off the streets. She's now got 60 young girls playing, which is just incredible. And it's to keep them out of gangs, it's to keep them out of getting pregnant, it's to keep them keep them in school,
Mhm.
to keep them away from drugs. And so, if that's what you're doing in Brazil, is by creating role models,
Yeah.
positive role models that young girls can aspire to. Like I get goosebumps. It's changing lives, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. And we see that even like in my family and families adjacent to us, like, oh, my son loves football and he wants to, and I'm giving him a Sam Care football shirt, or some women's as well, for them to aspire, for them to choose. Like, there's all these amazing heroes. It's not just men's. So trying to change this perspective, like, oh, ballets for women, for girls. And so it's kind of, this is normal. This is, everyone can do whatever they want. If a boy wants to do ballet, or if a girl wants to do football, it's the same thing. It's an activity that they can have joy and build their character and find ways to have a healthier, mentally stable life. And that's the beauty of sports, and that's why I started working from sports. From the minute I had the opportunity to start working in sports, I've never left, and I've been since then. Yeah, and I've left the corporate role for to build the studio, to kind of work, to be able to see the grassroots sides, to be able to work on projects that are meaningful and different, that I wouldn't probably be able to work if I was on corporate, because it's money talks to money, and that's the reality of things.
Yeah. Luiza, knowing that the Rugby World Cup was so successful, for the Women's Rugby World Cup, were you involved in that at all? You
No,
weren't.
I was no, not unfortunately, but I did go to the finals, which was an unbelievable atmosphere. It's, yeah.
Or the reason I'm asking, is there any learnings from that for you that you would take to the Brazil world? Like, are there things that you can take away positively or negatively that you could improve upon for the Football World Cup?
I think in general, what I felt going to the stadium for that final was the atmosphere was not only positive, but was so family friendly. Everyone was just cheering on the girls and the women's, and there was no pushing, no pulling, no nothing. It was just a very safe and joyful place to be. And obviously, I took my son and some of their friends, and they were all cheering for the girls, and that gives me goosebumps on its own, even though it shouldn't, but it still does, because
Yeah, yeah.
it's different, right? And you're like, you go, girl. Whenever I see someone scoring, and it's like, yes, because I know the difficulties, or actually, I don't know. I can only imagine some of the difficulties that they had to go through to get to that point. Not saying that the men didn't, but like we, as women, as we are saying, we have our periods. We sometimes want to build a family and get pregnant, and we have to stop away from it. So there's lots of physical things that we already have to endure, plus the backgrounds of the many different backgrounds. As we were saying, from South Africa, Brazil, what they have to give up and what they have to endure to be there. So I think the lesson was, it can be done, and it was beautifully done. The final was just amazing. It was great. Um, it was just giving more motivation to keep doing, keep working on sports, and keep trying to build up this momentum for the women's sports in general.
And I think the visibility and the photographs and the pictures and the media it was amazing. I mean, I think they did a very good job. Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Um, if you have to think about leadership roles, so your Brazilian football ladies, is there like that you know about? Because what I would love to do this year, I'm running workshops, online workshops. So they are support networks, no, support workshops for people to come on for mental health, for mindset coaching, just for support. So, like, I think many people in individual sports feel like they're paddling the canoe on their own and that they are battling certain things on their own. So that was one of the reasons because I used to work with golfers. So they're often on their own, but together, when I brought everybody together, they were able to share and maybe normalize their symptoms. So what I would love to do in these processes is to develop mentors, find mentors, so that the leaders, and like a feedback system into your grassroots. So how they could maybe share their challenges and their successes, like how did they overcome certain challenges, and then how they feed it back to the youth to help them, maybe have like a buddy system or something.
Mhm.
Would that be something that would be useful in Brazil? Do they do it? Like,
I mean, they probably have that. I'm not 100% sure, but if it's useful, 100%, there's no doubt that the mental guide of your physical and what your actions are hugely important. What I try to think is like you have certain options in your moments in life, and one of them is what to focus on. And once you focus on that, how you see that, is that a positive or a negative? Because there's always different ways that you can go about that. And then how do you act on it? What do you do about that? So if you got injured, is there an opportunity then to turn that around and to strengthen your mental health or to do something different? And how do you do about it? So everything that happens to you, and I see these women's and girls and athletes in general, they have the amazing mindset where they can focus, they have priorities, and they need coaches and helpers for that. So 100% hear what you're coming. And once they find the next focus or their priority, how do they go about it? What do they act on it? And how do they see? Because there's always going to be difficulties. There's always going to be step backs. So for me, the mental aspect is huge. It's amazing. Yeah.
So, so, so one of the things, so let's just separate. There's mental health, so that's depression, anxiety, happy, joy, all of that's the emotional stuff. And then the mindset stuff is what you're talking about, the focus, the skills, to be able to zoom in, focus, be in the moment. So those skills can be trained. And the ones that people don't talk about, but maybe experience, would be the depression and the anxiety, because for many high performers, there's the perfectionist. So they're always striving for very high expectations. And if they don't reach those, then there could be some negative self-talk or self-loathing and that type of thought. So one of the topics that I have is, who am I when I'm not playing sport? So that it's human first, athlete second. And then what happens to me what is my plan B? Like after this, how does this translate into something else? So there's always preparing and planning to kind of reduce the surprises, if one can say that. But you mentioned something that's really important, is injury. Are there the things that the projects that you work on and that you're aware of, are there programs available, like when the person gets injured, what's the process? Like how are they supported other than physically? How are they supported in that journey?
Yeah, I don't work. I would love to work on one of those projects. I don't know exactly. I think each club or each grassroots teams have their own path. So what we try to do, like as from the creative or strategic background, it's try to inform as much as possible and help with once you have an informed decision or a guide through, as you're saying, look, I'm depressed at home. Like you can still motivate, or you can still help inspire, help the inspiration to come. And then from there you can try to find some forces like I don't. So this is probably for the likes of more like medical areas. What we try to do is translate that into a visually appealing, digestible information that ticks you, that motivates you, and that once you read it and you find something to look forward to, then you can start coming out of any dark place that you might be in, or any
Yeah.
negative thought that you might be having.
So just for the people listening, if they had to understand your job on a deeper level, so you say you've run the campaign for the Brazil 2027, what does that involve? Like what do you need to do? How did you win the campaign? What's all involved?
That's a great question. So work mainly on bids, decks, presentations, visual identities or brandings that we want to be there on moments that matter, that are changing the sports for the good. And one of our big focuses is grassroots and women's sports. So what we do is we work together with sports properties or global sports organizations and try to act as this translation into whatever strategic or whatever audience they're trying to talk to. How can that be translated into a visual aspect? So that could be a banner or on a LinkedIn post that you see, but it talks to you in a different way because it has a visual and event branding. Because once you step onto the event and you feel like you belong and you feel like the branding is kind of hugging you and welcoming you and pushing you to the right direction, that wherever you are in a stadium, you know where the exit is, the toilet is, this is wayfinding, this is easy, like a user experience flow. We're talking to pitch decks and presentations, trying to join the dots between sports properties and brands. So if a grassroots team wants to reach out to an Adidas of the world, how does this presentation can speak their language that will bring their attention and hopefully increase percentage of converting? So we're all trying to use design and this visual language to kind of bring more sponsors to women's and girls and grassroots initiatives to help them elevate their potential.
Okay, amazing. All right. So do you connect with brands or do they connect with you? Which way around does it work?
It's both. Like sometimes I'm hired from the sports property and saying, look, we have this opportunity in a meeting with X brand. And then I help build the deck and presentation and help with the strategy. Or sometimes the brands want to look, we want to expand our portfolio of events that we want to talk to. And then I work for the brand. Or on a smaller scale is smaller initiatives on grassroots. I was talking to today to an individual that is building an app to resell like vintage, like a secondhand boots and secondhand sports. So how can they speak more to other grassroots clubs and all the money that goes through that go and help the grassroots club to increase their revenue? So it's strategically how this look and feel, yeah, how this visual communication helps speed up the connections.
Yeah, yeah. And like recycling it back into the process.
Exactly. Yeah, no, it's a lot about sustainability. It's a lot about, as you say, the reuse from grassroots, especially. Just going back to this specific project, it's just how can we help the influx of our local clubs? Oh, there are so many boots, and especially for when young women's and young adults in general, they're still growing and they lose their apparel. So how can we put that back in the market and help internally the inflow of those local clubs? And visually, how does that translate? How do we speak to bigger brands and start expanding that? Once we do an event about that, does that visual language is still talking the same ideas and the same visual communication that you want to go, and do you want to talk to different brands? So that language does have to change a lot, and we want to be there basically on moments that matter and trying to help women and girls, as we're saying, stay in sports. And we're doing that as much as we can through design, through creative perspective, through strategy.
That must be so rewarding. Okay, because what you've said is just like sparked another thought of mine. One of the things that I do on the wellness program is their social media. So the athletes' social media. I know nothing about that type of thing. All I'm saying is like they've got to be their brand and how they represent themselves, because that's how that sponsors will look for that, etc., etc. If someone came to you with that question, as in how for people to become aware of me and to elevate me, let's say,
Mhm.
what kind of advice could you give or suggest, or what creative advice would you give?
Yeah, I think the personal branding is huge at the moment. We're seeing like not only AI, but the even the LinkedIn algorithm, they're all changing, and people are posting about having a new cat rather than just on finding a new job. So I think the personal branding and the more honest and uh, people read through a lot of chat GPT at this day and age. So you have to cut through that, and you have to put a little bit of your personality there, as much as you can, and speak to more directly. Like, I am helping brands and sports organization win bids, present decks, and do events design. So how can you translate whatever you are trying to do in one simple sentence that can be digested and can be absorbed? Another point that we help a lot is consistency. So you do a campaign, and then you do another, and then you do another. You're just changing the message so much. And the more consistent you are in terms of your not only visual language, but also on your messaging, it helps land that message a bit, slowly and steady. It get more engraved. Of course, the biggest world's brands like Nike, they didn't start with just do it from day one, but they slowly and steady got there. And every time you see that little logo, you already know what's about. So it's kind of building that into something that translates into what you are and what you want to do.
Yeah, it's like social media has so many pros and so many cons, you know. And you think that when things are going well and if people like you, then there's a lot positive that's said on it. And if it's the other way around, then there's also a whole lot of negative. So it's, again, my role is to help them control what you can control, and you've got to let go of what you can't, and it kind of expect those type of things to happen, which is a seriously challenging task. Okay, I'm going to ask you another question now. I'm going to say, looking ahead, what do you envision for the future of women's football in Brazil?
Wow. We're really looking forward to the 2027 World Cup, and really having our all toes and fingers crossed that this will help change the perspective of men's and women's in different boxes. So that is the main goal, and to help inspire girls and women to not only start but keep in sport as much as possible, be upfront to all the challenges that they will have in terms of having their periods, or wanting to be a mother, or not wanting to be a mother, and all the challenges that we have as human beings. So definitely changing the perspective and opening more doors, inspiring girls is the goal.
Great. I think that's amazing because I mean, in South Africa is also a big thing. I mean, everywhere it's a big thing, but as in creating opportunities where people wouldn't have had the chances to play. And when I read the proposal from the lady who started this football club, it's basic things like shoes, kit, and then obviously the league fees and transport, and I mean those are like real basics that people need. But I'm thinking, like, even in the locker rooms, providing sanitary wear, products, and et cetera, that it does, so that when a woman goes in there, there's flow. It's like, I belong here, I'm accepted here, people know exactly, like, this is how it is for us. But I once reframed being a woman to someone, and instead of seeing all these changes that we go through as negative, it to me, as a woman, we are so adaptable and have so much strength, because we go through puberty and our body changes, and we have to adapt to this new body and continue to play the sport wherever it is. We have to adapt and grow with the growth. And then our bodies change again if we fall pregnant, and the hormones go up and down, and then our bodies change, but we still continue to do whatever we're doing. If it's being a mother, a wife, whatever, and a job, we still continue to do that. We adapt. And then we might have another child. So now you've got a small child and a big, and you carry on and you do all of that. And then you get to menopause, where you go through more hormonal changes and your body changes again. Yet you still carry on with what you've got and you adapt. So if one turns that around as a positive thing, it's like the superpower of a woman is next level, that you can be given a whole lot of tasks and responsibilities and you can juggle them and you can do it successfully.
And totally hear you and totally agree. I think we have so many different boxes and an endless to-do list that we're kind of used to it. I see myself as an octopus, even in my house with my kid and my work, and trying to juggle the business and being a wife and also taking care of me, like trying to exercise or trying to do yoga and walk the dog. So yeah, we are definitely octopuses and trying to juggle everything at once, and it's impossible. It's you have to understand that balance is there, and sometimes you'll focus more on one and the other will be lacking a little bit, but it's kind of what you're focused on next, what is your next priority, and how can you understand and give yourself a tap on the back and saying it's okay, tomorrow I can look at something else if I have that opportunity. So yeah, totally hear you. It's the story of at least my life, I'm sure, for sure.
Yeah, and I think we as women just think that that's how it is, and people often moan like, poor us, but it's more that's what we can deal with. It means we have this inner strength and adaptability. Yeah, but talking about balance, that's another thing with young athletes. And when you talked about injury and that type of thing. So if you look at the high performance personalities that you'd be dealing with in especially the World Cups and the Olympics and that type of thing, there's nothing balanced about a high performance personality. It can't be balanced because you have to be extreme to train as you do, the sacrifices, the commitments, etc. But it's vital at some point in your day or week that there's some balance, there's some kind of hobby or tapping out or things like that. So is there, and another huge thing that I advocate with sport, because I'm working with parents in sport, and how as parents we can sometimes mess it up for our youngsters because we take over as coach and the passion might be a bit too high that we actually kill their joy. So Luiza, so very much what I bring up with my athletes, because for example, last year I lost 3 17-year-olds who dropped out of sport because they no longer enjoyed playing and the pressure was too great and the pressure was coming from the parents and they'd had enough. So, I mean, the reason that we all play sport at the beginning is for the joy of it and for the love of it. So if you think of an event like the Olympics, do they have a fun park, let's call it that, for a bit of downtime just to shake their shoulders a little bit?
Yeah, so I think on the Olympic Village, they do already have the opportunity to go out and explore. There's brand activations. From what I could experience on the Olympics that I've been, it's a moment of their, as you're saying, fan play park, that they go out and they see other athletes and they probably meet people from all over the world, which is exciting on its own. So, and when they need to focus, they'll probably have a tight schedule depending on what sports they're there to do. And some of them even starts a little bit before the Olympics, and then you have the complete change of that to the Paralympics, which is another huge event, which it needs more and more attention because it's just completely blown your mind once you see a Paralympic event. But yeah, I think they do have these pockets of downtime, and they can leave the village if they are allowed to, or even leave and take a look. Say for the last one was Paris, so that's hugely important from my perspective for them to kind of have this tiny pockets of balance, because they have to be so focused on.
Thank you so much for your time and invaluable information. I am sure you're going to get many people wanting to know much more about your amazing job. If you're listening to Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it would be a huge help for you to write up a small review. And if you're on YouTube, please make sure you hit the subscribe button as well. If this episode has helped you in any way, the best way that you can help us grow the show is by sharing this episode with a friend. If you are in a position to sponsor podcast or sponsor mindset coaching for a female athlete, please reach out. In our next episode, I chat to Tatu Nkademeng, a young female student and rugby player. We discuss the stigma around rugby and being a female athlete. And we look at possible ways to reduce the gender pay gap. We also discuss period poverty and breast health in sportswomen. So stay tuned to listen to this incredible young lady. Most of all, I hope you enjoy your time on the sports field and wherever your sport may take you. I'll chat to you again soon.